Hello? Rescue hooks to rescue, Mayday! Get ahead, West. Bad Mayday, what's your location? Get the hell out of here, hurry up! We need radio silence, baby. Water in that 2.5 inch line. 48 inch water in a 2.5 inch line. To the rope, to the rope. 35 in the rear, 35 in the rear.
Welcome to the Emergency Traffic Podcast. Hey there. Here's another episode of the Emergency Traffic Podcast. This week is episode 48, where in Houston, Texas, on April 4th, 2004, 20 years ago this month, during a nightclub fire, a 32-year-old firefighter died and 2 other captains were seriously injured during a collapse. This week, many of our regular co-hosts, Doug, Dirk, and Denis, were busy, and as I was trying to get another episode recorded between my busy schedule as well, spring is always busy around here, a host from a few years ago has rejoined us, Zach. So he's going to make this happen with us. So please sit back and lend us your ear to learn about this tragic event so we can learn from it. Hey there, Zach. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm glad to be back after an extended hiatus. Life got a little busy there for a little while, and I'm really happy to be back here in Emergency Traffic Podcast. So.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's been growing, and that's why we have several hosts. Doug, Dirk, and Denis are all not available today, and I wanted to get another episode out for April, so I was reaching out saying, "Hey, can you help me?" So,
yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, you caught me on a good day. I just flew back in from work here, and got a couple days off here before I go back. So yeah, I've got an afternoon, and why not sit down and do a podcast?
Right on. Look at you and me flying in from all over the place.
All over, yeah.
Working up north, and I was out in Manitoba teaching incident command to a bunch of military veterans or current military personnel. Yeah, with Team Rubicon, which is a disaster response agency that goes in usually after disasters, sometimes before, to help communities and people recover from tornadoes or wildfires or floods or whatever, and they got a grant from Public Safety Canada or Veterans Affairs to train 150 retiring veterans, teach them incident command, 200 and 300 as a potential resume builder for emergency management jobs in their second careers.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah. That's awesome. You got the ability to do that. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
cool.
So that's cool. We did a course in Edmonton a few weeks ago, and just did one in Winnipeg this last week, and they're doing one in Halifax 2 weeks, and one in Kingston in a few weeks, and then one in Ottawa. It's planned. It's going to go on for like the year and a half. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah, what a cool opportunity for sure.
Yeah, and you've been busy. Working two jobs plus the part-time fire department.
Three jobs. I've been working right now. I just last summer there I was hired with a local ambulance service, so I'm working ambulance here, and then I work in Kitimat at a project out there as a lieutenant now actually, and now I'm here in Lacombe, and we got our wedding coming up, and it's about 49 days to that, so it's crunch time. So
nice.
It's staying pretty busy.
Of course, myself and other co-host Doug, we were on Lacombe for a long time. I was on there for 20 years and retired from there in 2013 because I was working full time. And Doug, I don't know what year he went to.
Doug left. He left 2013, and then he came back again for a couple years in 2016. 2016 to 2018, something like that. And then he just work got busy again for him, and
working full time career.
He has a hard time letting go of Lacombe, but it's a good department, good place. So he
for
enjoys.
Sure.
Yeah,
excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I was a couple things that I found interesting in the news lately is this spate of hangar fires that have been going on. There's been a whole bunch of abandoned airport hangars burning. There was one last week, actually not far from us here in
Yeah.
Edmonton, Alberta.
Yeah.
The old city center airport that used to be in the center of the city that's closed down a few years ago. They had a abandoned hangar burned down this week.
Hangar 11. Yeah.
Hangar
Yeah.
11, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Happy Valley Goose Bay, which is there's a military base there, Air Force base, but there's apparently older hangars or something, and one of those caught fire. And it was interesting. It just because they issued a state of local emergency, and they were worried about explosives or something in being in the area. I'm not too sure. We'll hear about that later, I imagine, but
Yeah.
kind
I'd
of
imagine so.
interesting.
Yeah.
So that really stressed out the community. And then related to that was a few months ago, there was a airplane hangar at Tuscan Air Force Base in California that was an old airship hangar.
Okay.
And it had been abandoned, and it was a bit of a fight between the military and the community as to whose it was and where it was, and firefighting, water supplies and stuff. And I think there was one in Oregon too. And then you get into asbestos and all these other kind of things that
Absolutely.
cause
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah, and who's maintaining the buildings, right? Is there a fire protection system still in place, or was there one, right? So
And there
all the
wasn't.
stuff.
That
Yeah,
was the
of
problem.
course. Yeah,
And there was
there
no
wasn't.
water. And
No.
yeah, exactly. I know in
Yeah.
the Edmonton one, it appeared they could only get on one side of it because
Yeah.
the back side of it had been excavated and stuff. They removed
Yeah.
the tarmac or the runway, and
Yeah.
so they couldn't put trucks on the Delta side or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were watching videos of that one from people that were around there, and it's a pretty large fire, and
Yeah, there's not much you
yeah,
can do.
no, not much at that point. So it's surrounded around
Lethbridge
operating.
in about 2010, Lethbridge had a hangar. It was actually in use. They were building like modular prefabricated homes. Windy day in May, and they got called for smoke in the building, and they went inside and everything. Like went to a regular fire call. And of course, a big hangar doesn't appear like much when there's smoke inside, but because it's such a big building, and there was a working fire in there, and they had to evacuate the building, and they actually lost an engine parked
Yeah.
too close, and the wind took
Mhm.
it, and the engine got burned up. And I was at a fire in Saskatoon at a hangar too that caught
Yeah.
fire, and they responded to it and everything, and they had to abandon their hose lines and run out. They lost all their hose and nozzles and everything, but no one got hurt. But these big buildings are a real risk when they don't look like much, but when there's a fire in there, it can really get going.
And what gets stored inside of them too? We had one in Lacombe a couple years ago, and
Oh,
just the
yeah.
amount of stuff that was inside of this building, right? There's more than just airplanes in there, right? Sometimes there's a room, there's a living quarters in there, there's just old vehicles, like whatever people can store in these hangars, right? Like they'll store in there. So it's more than just airplanes in these hangars. So something
Yeah,
something to
and
keep an eye out for.
water supply might be an issue at some of them and stuff like
Yep.
that. So here
Yep.
you have this big fire risk and minimal water or long ways to water. Yeah.
Yeah, that one we did definitely have an issue with water supply because the hydrants were in the street, and this is in the airport, and had no hydrants for us, so it was
Yeah.
pretty challenging. So
Small town airport, no
small town
hydrants.
airport. Yep,
Like, nice.
gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing on the news I saw last week was parents of a nurse that was on a life flight helicopter, if you will, in the States somewhere. I think it was Pennsylvania, I can't remember, or Ohio. Anyway, the life flight helicopter unfortunately crashed upon landing, and there was fatalities and stuff. The families are suing several agencies because of the landing zone, saying that there was some negligence in setting up, and they're actually suing the fire department for the fatalities as part of the risk, because they had set up the landing zone and there was power lines nearby and stuff like that. So that's an interesting one that I had not really thought about in landing a helicopter, but I suppose you could be you're doing it, you're setting it up,
liable.
so
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I guess you're liable. Yeah.
I think as a fire department, we get, or as a fire service rather, we get very complacent with the fact that like, oh, everybody loves the fire department, right? But I mean, if we're the ones that are messing up as well, we can just as well be held liable for stuff like that. And you're seeing it all the time now, so we have to be careful.
Especially in today's litigious society, I guess.
Everything's on camera. Everything's on camera. Yeah. So we got to make sure that we're doing our due diligence here and following the procedures for that and doing
Yeah.
size ups for
Yeah,
sure.
got to have the documentation and making sure stuff is
Absolutely.
all the boxes are checked.
Yeah, cover your butt.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. So this week's incident, actually, it's the 20-year anniversary this month in April of 2024 of an incident that happened on April 4th in 2004, where a 32-year-old male career firefighter died while conducting an interior attack at a nightclub that was an arson fire, and another 2 captains were also injured. The department is Houston, Texas, a big department. Unfortunately, Houston has been a guest on our show here a few times, so just the way it is, I guess. But the fire department was 3,875 uniformed personnel serving a population of 1.9 million in a geographical area of about 620 square miles. The fire department requires all new firefighters to complete 640 hours of firefighter training and 240 hours of emergency medical technician training before they're assigned to a station. Following being assigned to a station, all new firefighters are required to complete a 12-month probationary period. The victim was a firefighter who had approximately 17 years of experience with the volunteer fire department and 7 months experience with this fire department. So he was, like many of us, started on a part-time on call and ended up, or volunteer, and ended up full-time. The victim attended the fire department's training academy and was a certified level 1 and firefighter and a basic emergency medical technician. The captain from Engine 50, Captain 1, had approximately 5 years' experience with a volunteer fire department prior to being hired on January 1993 by this department, and this happened in 2004. Experience with this career department included NFPA Firefighter Level 2, Emergency Medical Technician, and paramedic training. Following an assignment as a paramedic, the captain served as a paramedic prior to his promotion to engineer operator in January of 97. He was promoted to captain in December of 2000 and assigned to the Central Dispatch prior to being assigned as an officer for Engine 50 crew on December 22nd, 2001. Within 10 minutes at 0555 hours, the following units were dispatched to this call. So 5 o'clock in the morning, almost 6 o'clock in the morning. There was 3 district chiefs with an aide or a fit field incident technician, right? Blue card?
Yeah,
Fit?
you betcha. Yeah.
4 engines with 4 trucks with 4, 2 hazmat units with 4, 2 safety officers, 2 medic units with 3 each, a foam truck with 2, and a cascade truck with 2 were all called out to this call once they figured out what they had.
Yeah. This structure had various construction methods and materials. The walls, ceilings, and known interior finishes varied throughout the structure, and a significant portion could not be determined due to the extent of the fire damage. The structure had 3 sections, with the middle section being the original building, and the west and east sections added on later dates. The exterior walls of the original middle section consisted of concrete blocks with stucco finish. Steel I-beams supported the gable design with limited slope roof system that consisted of metal affixed to the S channel. The interior wall and ceiling finish could not be conclusively determined. However, a portion of the wall appeared to be made of concrete blocks. The construction material of the walls and the additions varied, with portions consisted of concrete blocks, with the other 2 sections having wood framing, 2x4 construction. The addition of the east end of the building had a roof constructed of wood and overlaid with asphalt shingles. The pitch of the roof was not significant enough to ensure proper water runoff. The construction of the walls and of the west side of the building was very similar to the addition made to the east end of the building. The roof was constructed of wood and overlaid with a build-up tar and gravel roof. The pitch of the roof at the west end of the building was also not significant enough to ensure proper water runoff. Note, the two additions collapsed prior to the recovering the victim. The victim was found in the original middle section of the building that had not collapsed. Arson investigators determined that the fire was incendiary in nature. A petroleum-based accelerant was ignited at several points around the perimeter.
Kind of interesting that a building in Houston didn't have enough slope on the roof for water
Right?
runoff, because
Yeah.
when it rains in Houston, it rains.
It does,
I know.
yes.
I've been down there in the rain when I used to work for E1, and holy cow, you could get some
Exactly.
real rain.
Exactly.
So it must have had some roof water backup issues sometimes too.
It looks like this is another one of those buildings which, they just added cheap add-ons to the side of it, right? That wasn't part of the original design. And did they follow
Exactly.
code? Yeah, it's kind of like the red flags are being thrown up here right away, right? It's
Already,
like,
yep.
additions, right?
Yeah, so as we added a few episodes ago, we've got this virtual 360. So just to try to give the listeners a picture of the building and what they found when the firefighters arrived. So I'll jump into that here now. Upon arrival, the firefighters found heavy smoke in the area and a single-story building with a low-slope peaked roof. The building was about 113 feet wide and 66 feet deep, with the last 20 feet end only 46 feet deep. So if you think of a box with a little bit of a add-on on one corner, that's what it looked like. The main doorway was right in front of that little add-on part where it was only 46 feet deep, with a notch in the Alpha Delta corner. People were gathered in the parking lot. No visible fire from the building, but heavy smoke coming from the Bravo Charlie corner. There were several small windows along the Alpha upper wall, just along the roofline. We have no real details on the inside of the building. Like I said before, at about 5:55 hours, the crews were dispatched by a reported truck fire, was what it was called in as. And therefore, they determined that on their CAD as a hazardous material incident. So that's why the hazmat and extra units were sent initially.
Makes sense, yeah.
At about 6:04, District Chief 5 arrived on scene and established incident command and reported to Central Dispatch that it's a building on fire at the location.
At approximately 6:03 hours, Engine 50 arrived on the scene, and the captain, this is Captain Number 1, radioed Central Dispatch reporting that they had heavy smoke, but had not found the address. Captain Number 1 reported to the Central Dispatch that they had a one-story commercial building fire, and that they were going to make an interior fast attack. Central Dispatch advised all units that this incident would be operating on Tactical Channel 7. Ladder 38 arrived on scene. A second hazmat alarm was dispatched to complete the box alarm. At 6:05 hours, the crew of Engine 50 stretched a 200-foot inch and 3/4 pre-connect handline and positioned themselves at the main entrance. Alpha Delta corner, Captain Number 1 conducted a partial size up as he walked through the crowd of people that had gathered in the parking lot east of the building on side Delta. There was no visible fire observed on the exterior of the building by the first arriving units. Officers and firefighters reported to the NIOSH investigators that they had observed heavy dark smoke emitting from the northwest corner of the structure upon their arrival. So some red flags there. At approximately 6:06 hours, the Engine 50 crew reported to the incident commander, incident commander was DC-5, that they had been making an interior fast attack and that the owner of the building informed them that there were propane tanks located at the rear of the building. The incident, the IC assigned Ladder 38 to Section 1 Interior. The IC assigned Engine 5 to set up and maintain electrical accountability system. And the crew of Engine 5 was also assigned to be the Rapid Intervention Team, or RIT. At approximately 6:08 hours, Engine 50 crew advanced the inch and 3/4 line into the building.
Just a minute there on that. So that was an electronic accountability system. So this department, I cut it out from the script, but
Yeah.
apparently they had a fairly sophisticated electronic accountability system that you would log in the times and anybody that went inside, and they would monitor their air and that kind of stuff. And I
Yeah.
think it was supposed to report if somebody went down. It was supposed to alarm. So that's kind
Yeah.
of why they bring it up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I know we played with some a little bit back when we first got our MSA G1s
Yeah.
in Lacombe, and we kept losing connectivity every time we go into like a concrete building. We'd lose connectivity with the pack, and it was just not a system that was ready at the time. So
Yeah, we had
that's
one in Fort
2004.
Saskatchewan. We had it in Fort Saskatchewan too with the Scott packs, and it would set up on an iPad in the engine, but it didn't really use it because it was just determined not to be effective.
Yeah. Technology will get there eventually, but I don't think
Yeah,
we're there
they got
yet.
MSA's got a new one now. I don't know anything about it though.
Lunars, yeah, MSA
Yeah,
Lunars. I haven't got to play with it yet, but apparently
yeah.
it's supposed to be the bee's knees here now. So
Okay, of course. Every salesman will
wait
say
for
that
that
'cause
coming down there.
I
Yeah,
was a salesman, so I can say that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Crew members reported to NIOSH investigators that smoke was emitting from the top of the door.
The victim was on the nozzle, followed by firefighter 1 and captain 1. The three entered and proceeded along the wall to the right. The crew advanced a hand line approximately 10 feet before stopping. The crew decided to pull back on the front door after having difficulty finding the seat of the fire. After regrouping, firefighter 1 re-entered as the nozzle man and followed by the victim and captain number 1.
A note here that the smoke was banked down to approximately 3 feet from the floor with no visible fire and very limited visibility. This reminds me of that other one that we had the fire chief of Bryan, Texas, join us for. It was I want to say Elks Hall, but that might not be what it was. But same kind of thing, nightclub, community hall kind of thing.
Yeah. Ladder 38's crew made their way to the front door with an 1 3/4 line as the Engine 50 crew advanced their hand line for the second time. Captain number 2 from Ladder 38 asked Captain 1 if they had found the fire. Captain number 1 replied that they had not. The firefighters from Ladder 38 pulled some slack on their 1 3/4 line as they caught on the exterior corner from the building near the entrance. As the Engine 50 crew advanced the hand line toward the north wall, they encountered zero visibility and high heat conditions. There was no visible fire at this time, as firefighter number 1 sprayed short bursts of water at the ceiling to attempt cooling. So that's what they refer to as penciling.
Penciling.
And you all
2004.
That was a big topic, right? And
maybe should have penciled more.
Maybe should have, flowed water.
Flowed water. I'm sure it was a fog nozzle too.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
We'll get into this a little later, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. But you get these big places that are full of smoke, and you can't tell. But remember, smoke is fuel.
Smoke is fuel, yeah.
At approximately 6:09 hours, so we're 10 minutes, 13 minutes into the call, 14 minutes. Incident Command radioed the fire sector officer and informed him that heavy fire is showing through the roof now. Approximately 2 minutes later, the fire sector officer radioed Captain 1 and informed him the propane bottles are at the base of the fire and that fire has broken through the roof. Captain 1 acknowledged the transmission and then told his crew that it was time to exit the building. Makes sense? Yeah, red flags, right?
At approximately 6:12, Captain number 1 began following the hose line when his low air alarm sounded. He'd only taken 2 to 3 short breaths when he completely ran out of air. He then disconnected his mask-mounted regulator to radio for assistance. He was quickly overcome by the toxic smoke and collapsed. Firefighter number 1 could hear some commotion as if someone had knocked something over behind him. He then heard someone yelling something, but he could not understand what was being said. Firefighter number 1 heard someone yell, "Let's get out of here," then suddenly increase in visible fire and heat. Firefighter number 1 then dropped the nozzle and proceeded to follow the hand line towards the door.
The incident commander radioed the rapid intervention team, instructing them to check on the Engine 50 crew that was inside the building. The rapid intervention team did not enter the building at this time. The incident commander followed up that radio transmission by ordering all companies to go defensive and instructing the accountability officer to evacuate the evacuation mode on the electronic accountability system command base.
Firefighter number 2 and firefighter number 3 from ladder 38 had followed the handline into the structure, approximately 15 feet, when they encountered an increased heat level. The two firefighters began to follow the handline out when a sudden increase of heat caused them to think that they were heading down in the wrong direction. After getting their bearings, they continued down the handline until they reached the door. They then saw firefighter number 1 exit behind them. Firefighter number 2 quickly realized that his captain number 2, had not yet exited.
Incident Command ordered all apparatus to sound their air horns, notifying everyone on the fireground that the operation had gone defensive and for everyone to exit the building. A personnel accountability report was requested by the incident commander at this time.
At approximately 6:15 hours, firefighter number 2 re-entered and followed the handline. He came across a downed firefighter. This is Captain number 1 from Engine 50. Firefighter number 2 radioed that he had a firefighter down. He dragged Captain number 1 to the front door, where firefighter number 1 and firefighter number 3 assisted in getting the captain moved away from the building before removing his gear. Firefighter number 2 realized that his captain number 2, was also still inside the building. He re-entered for a second time and found Captain number 2 stumbling towards the front door.
Here's a note again from the NIOSH investigators. Captain number 2 reported that he had become disoriented after being struck in the left shoulder. He was not sure what had struck him and knocked onto a table. Captain number 2 also reported that he had experienced intense heat the entire time he was searching for the handline. As firefighter number 2 assisted Captain number 2 out of the building, the entire room lit up as fire began rolling out the front door. At about 06:17 hours, a crew member from Ladder 38 radioed command reporting that all personnel were accounted for from Engine 50 in Ladder 38. Here's another note here that says a firefighter was misidentified as the victim when a personnel accountability report was requested at PAR. The victim was not assigned to the crew that had responded on Engine 50. He had arrived at work early and had relieved the firefighter assigned to this crew. The incident commander was given a PAR. After receiving the PAR, the IC made a radio transmission that it was a defensive fire and ordered everyone away from the building. So it sounds like they had an extra man on the truck.
Yeah, huge miscommunication there.
That's happened in Charleston and many others too, right? Where they had people showing up and going and didn't know where they were.
Yeah, accountability is important.
Yeah, well, and they did the same with the Brandon, South Dakota fire that we did last episode here in April. And a friend of mine that I used to work with at Rosenbauer actually was at the fire. And he says, Good podcast, but you didn't really capture the confusion that was on the scene and trying to figure out where people were and stuff. He says it was unfortunately very traumatic.
That can be a very hard thing to try to capture.
Of course, yeah. At approximately 6:24 hours, so we're 30 minutes in, Medic 50 left the scene transporting Captain 1 to an area hospital. Incident Command radioed Medic 50 asking if they were transporting Captain 1. Medic 50 confirmed that they were transporting Captain 1 and treating him for smoke inhalation. At approximately 06:30 hours, a crew member from Engine 50 reported to command that they could not account for a firefighter, the victim, from Engine 50. Incident Command attempted to radio the victim but did not get a response. Safety 2 began searching the area around the apparatus looking for the victim. The accountability officer checked the electronic accountability system and reported to Incident Command that the system had accounted for everyone. Another note here is the base unit for the accountability system had been reset with 2 electronic pass devices indicating that they were timed out, not in alarm status, after the evacuation of the building. The operator who had reset the alarm surmised that the electronic pass devices belonged to the 2 injured firefighters that were now being transported to the hospital. Numerous attempts were made to physically locate the victim outside the building. At approximately 6:50 hours, Incident Command radioed dispatch asking them to contact all the ambulance that had left the scene to report if they had the victim with him. The incident commander was then informed that all ambulances had reported they did not have the victim with him. They must have had a name to identify him, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And that Captain Number 2 was being transported in Ambulance 13 to an area hospital. This gives a little bit of credibility, just as the last episode did with the missing firefighter, to Chief Gord Schreiner's push on this Stop Bad, he calls it, and that's his program where every firefighter gets a number, and that's their number for life, and that's the number they use on their helmet, on their gear, everywhere, and that way everybody knows that like 225 is Paul. And anytime, where's 225? And so, it's a very credible program. I like names better, but it does have a point though. Is it's hard to get that mixed up. If you had two, Prevos on the crew, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
At approximately 6:59 hours, Incident Command ordered Ladder 38 to shut down the ladder pipe. Numerous crews attempted to search the building. 8 minutes later, the search was suspended as building conditions were too dangerous to continue. Approximately 14 minutes later, a second search was initiated. At approximately 7:22 hours, a radio transmission was made that an alarming pass device could be heard. The incident commander then ordered all companies to shut down their operations of their engines, and approximately 3 minutes later, Incident Command was informed that the victim had been found in the debris. So they had to shut down their engines to hear the pass alarm to locate the person.
Under that much debris.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I just read that was another current events that I didn't mention before was there's a lawsuit, a new lawsuit. Apparently, there's been several against the SCBA manufacturer for a fatality, a fatal firefighter death, line of duty death. They're suing the company because they surmise the pass alarm did not activate when the person was motionless. And actually, the last one we did, Brandon, South Dakota, they say they didn't hear the pass alarm, but the pack was submerged. So that may have been the problem. But if there's a lawsuit, and this company's had a few, I'm not going to mention the brand, that they're being sued for potentially non-functioning pass alarms, which we grow to depend on.
And it's just another thing, right? I know, full time, whether you're full time or paid on call or not, when we're doing our apparatus checks and we're doing our SCBA checks, right? Don't just press the red button to get the final stage of the pass alarm. Let it go through all 4 cycles and make sure that it's working. I know
that's loud.
We're all guilty of it, right? Put some earplugs in, let it go through all 4 cycles.
Okay.
I just
you make sure you do that next shift, right?
I always do,
Okay.
Right. But I we're all guilty of it sometimes.
Sure.
Last thing I want to do is have to listen to this thing first thing in the morning, but it's important, and I think this just shows know your equipment.
Well, at least to go into the alarm, like when the pressure's going down as you're bleeding it off, let it ring, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because that's what has to activate it if it's not the motion that activates it.
Yep.
Okay, so we have some recommendations. I mean, and we're talking this is a sophisticated, well-trained, well-equipped fire department.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of shocking. When I read this, I went like, oh, wow, this is a good episode to talk about.
Mm-hmm. It was a rough year for them, too. 2004 was a pretty rough year for them.
Was that something else happened in 2004? Was that?
It was the South, I believe it was the South. Yeah, it was 2004.
No, Southwest Inn was in like 17 or 18, I think.
Was it? Okay. I thought I was reading this morning. So, anyway, recommendation number 1. Fire department should ensure that the first arriving officer conducts a complete size-up of the incident and evaluates the risks versus gain. So with that risk versus reward, right? Prior to committing crews to interior operations. Discussion. The initial size-up conducted by the first arriving officer allows the officer to make an assessment of conditions and assist in the planning of suppression strategy, right? So we talk about doing a 360s, doing a size up, right? And looking for those red flags. The first arriving officer conducted a partial size up in terms of evaluating the conditions and type of building, the extent of the fire spread and exposures. However, a size up report was not provided to central dispatch or responding units, including the IC.
So
personal.
this is like your IRR, initial
Yeah,
radio report. Here it is.
yeah,
I got it right
absolutely.
here on
There it
my
is.
desk.
There it is.
You're
The
the
blue
blue card
card.
guy.
You betcha.
Yay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You
And
betcha.
why
Yeah.
do you do an IRR? Not for you. It's for
No, it's for
everybody
everybody
else.
else coming in. Absolutely, right? So you're doing this. It's not just so you can hear yourself talk on the radio. It's giving that vital piece of information.
Gosh, we need Doug here to complain that I'm doing a blue card.
Yeah, I'm drinking that Kool-Aid here. So
Right on. Yay.
yeah, it's good. I've just implemented pieces of blue card at my
Perfect.
industrial
Good for
facility.
you.
So yeah,
Excellent.
we're doing.
Personnel reported to NIOSH investigators that they observed heavy dark smoke emitting from the northwest corner of the structure upon their arrival. There were no reports of civilians in the building upon Engine 50's arrival, nor were any civilians located at the building any time during or after the incident.
Recommendation number 2. Fire departments should ensure that firefighters conducting interior operations provide progress reports to the incident commander. Can reports, right? We talk in blue
Yep,
card. Can reports,
you bet.
conditions, actions, and needs, right?
Just like ICS in
Absolutely, yeah,
formal communications.
exactly. Frequent progress reports are essential to the incident commander's continuous assessment and size up of the incident. The initial crews experienced high heat conditions, zero visibility, and were having difficulty locating the seat of the fire. All of these factors are important details that the IC needs to evaluate when establishing and maintaining a plan of attack. Progress reports were not provided to the IC by interior crews. So you talk about uh, current status updates, right? Just, hey, we're experiencing some pretty heavy heat. We need to, make a plan. Let's get back out. We've got an 1.75 line in. That's not doing anything. Let's switch it out for a 2.5, right? Or think about a different strategy here, just based off what we're seeing. So
Well, I'm sure Dirk would bring up if he was here. It's like, okay, we've got a commercial structure. It was 100 feet by 80 feet or something, and
yeah,
we went in with an 1.75 inches. So
no,
that's
I was
residential tactics on a commercial structure. It should have been a two and a
yeah,
half or a 65
absolutely,
with a nice
yeah,
big smooth bore nozzle, and
absolutely,
away
yeah,
you go. You're right.
yeah,
So but we get lulled into that all the time. It's like I'm going to a truck fire. That was the
hmm
call.
yeah,
All of a sudden the building's on fire and they
yeah,
still pulled the pre-connect instead of the big pre-connect.
absolutely.
So probably not enough water for whatever fire. And they never said they never found the fire, but the recommendation number 3, fire department should ensure that fire department standard operating procedures are followed regarding thermal imaging camera use during interior operations. The fire department involved in this incident had an established standard operating procedure regarding thermal imaging camera use at structure fires. The SOP said that senior captains will be responsible to ensure that the thermal imaging camera is removed from their assigned apparatus and deployed on every dispatch structure fire, and that other identified situations that will enhance the safety of firefighting personnel or rescue operations. I'm guessing they didn't use the thermal imaging camera.
Probably not. It probably wasn't that in 2004. Probably
Pretty
not.
new. It's pretty new.
Pretty
Yep.
new. Yeah, yeah. Recommendation number 4. Fire departments should ensure that all firefighters and line officers receive annual refresher training regarding structural firefighting. Annual refresher training provides an opportunity to ensure that all firefighters and line officers are proficient in their knowledge and skills in recognizing and mitigating hazards. NFPA 1500, Chapter 5 requires that fire departments provide an annual skills check to verify minimal professional qualifications of its members. 5 training is also an ongoing process, whether held daily, weekly, or monthly, which allows members to maintain proficiency at their present levels, meeting certification requirements, learn new procedures, and keep with the emerging technology of the fire service.
Yeah, and this is a plug for like the ULFSRI
UL,
training that people
absolutely.
modern fire behavior. Everything's changing in the world. I know you and Doug and Dirk have been involved with some of this smooth bore nozzle stuff. And
Yeah.
what's that class? Nozzle
The nozzle
forward.
forward, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Huge
yeah.
advocate for that course. So
And
anybody out there that's on the fence about it, don't listen to. Go take the course for
it's
yourself,
just
right?
good motor skills, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's good motor skills, good good language course, and it's a good course on primarily what this fire should have been how this fire should have been handled, right? So
Yeah, and given it's 20 years ago, I mean,
absolutely, it's 20 years ago, right? But
but
yeah, essentially,
but the command stuff too, like you're taking blue card. A big
yeah.
part of blue card is that every 3 years you need to review, do another sim lab just so you get used to doing it again. It's a perishable skill. If you don't use it all the time, you lose it, right? That's why you want to
Absolutely,
do it
yeah.
for every call kind of thing.
Especially for our listeners out there that aren't on, busy departments, right? Like I work an industrial job with firefighters that just got out of fire school or may have taken fire school years ago, and their knowledge isn't where it used to be. So we need to continually train in order to bring their knowledge up to where it is. It's
You
easy for
guys
somebody to sit.
you could
Go
hire
ahead.
me to come be your blue card instructor. Pay for my recertification,
There's a
and
little
I could
plug,
pop up
yeah.
there. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I'll put it past the captain.
All right.
But yeah, it's so easy for us to get so complacent, right? So annual testing, annual training, daily training needs to be a thing, right? Could be just a quick little table talk. I'm getting on my soapbox here, Paul.
I remember Deputy Chief Chris Hemerick. You know Chris Hemerick.
I know him well. Yeah.
He's now full time out in Clearwater. There, he was one of my battalion chiefs when I was out
Yeah.
there. And we came back from some conference somewhere, and he swore up and down. He says, "Every alarm call, we're pulling hose. Every alarm call. I don't care if it's just an alarm call. We're catching a hydrant and we're pulling a line off." And I'm going, well, that might not go over so well with everyone, but you got to do it, or else you lose these skills.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
I was in an old hotel in Winnipeg, the Fort Garry Hotel, downtown Winnipeg, and it's 8 stories, and it's got a open stairwell because it was built in 1900. It was for the railway, right? And so it had elevators and stuff, but it also had these wonderful marble open stairwells. And right at the elevator lobby, you could look down the center of the stairwell to the first floor. And I was thinking, dragging a hose up there, right? Imagine running a vertical standpipe. We did that. I don't know if you listened to it yet. The Meridian 1 Plaza fire in Philadelphia with Chief Routley, formerly Montreal. And they set up 2, and they were working on the 3rd vertical standpipe with 4 or 5 inch hose, 24 floors up. And I just like to imagine doing that. That would be so much hard work. And I just thought of it when I was looking down the stairway all the way to the bottom, because the stairs went in a box around the open shaft, right? But that'd be a real stretch.
Absolutely. Oh. Yep. Recommendation number 5: fire departments should establish and implement an orientation and training program for all newly appointed, promoted, and reassigned officers. For newly appointed and promoted or reassigned officers, a department's orientation and training program can help ensure that their officers have the skills and knowledge and abilities to be successful in their newly assigned positions, right?
Absolutely.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle though. Like being on a paid on call departments all over Canada, right? Like it's a struggle to try to get your members trained and then add that extra little bit of training for this officer that's going to come on board, right? It's a struggle for a lot of departments, and luckily there's courses like Blue Card that kind of help you out a little bit with that. So
years ago, we were thinking about Blue Card, for example, and that's one of several. There's also Ontario's playing with this effective command program, which I don't know much about yet, but it's similar. And of course, Fire Command, which was the godfather of Blue Card, that's where it came from, which was Alan Brunacini's Fire Command. But we were curious about it in Clearwater. So Deputy Chief Patrick Osland and myself actually went and met with, at the time, Deputy Chief Bart Rowland, who just recently retired from the city of Red Deer. And we sat down and had lunch with Chief Rowland, and they'd gone into Blue Card, and Patrick was still kind of a little curious about it. I was already drinking the Kool-Aid, but he was curious, and so we had lunch, and Patrick asked him, says, Chief Rowland, why are you doing Blue Card? Why? And he says, you know what? He says, the most beautiful thing is, he says, in the middle of the night when my new captain gets an apartment fire on the 14th floor, and I hear it on the radio at night, I don't need to worry about him, because I know he's already done a whole bunch of simulations, because you do like 10 sets and reps for each type of building. So he's fought this fire already He's commanded a fire like this in simulations. So I don't need to worry about his knowledge for deploying his resources and doing it effectively and safely and all that kind of stuff. I still worry about him because he's a new captain and he's got a crew with him that he's not used to. But, as far as the fire goes, this guy's done the simulations already.
Yeah.
And that sold us. It was right there. We said, like, wow, never thought of that. He's fought a fire at Costco. He's fought a fire in a a high rise. He's fought a fire in a taxpayer, simulated, but still, it's very effective because you've already got the skills. So that's exactly what this says.
And you know how it should go, right? Just in a structurally, in a command sense, in an organizational sense, right? You should put all the pieces together.
Dirk and Doug are going to complain that you and I, it's just a blue
It's
card
going to be a blue
episode.
Card. Absolutely, yeah. We'll just put this in here, blue card episode.
They're not here to defend it or fight it. I like it. Okay, recommendation number 6. Fire departments should consider ways to enhance the effectiveness of a personnel accountability system. When firefighters enter smoke-filled structures, the visibility is usually very poor, thereby reducing the possibilities of easily identifying each other. The fire department involved in this incident uses an electronic accountability system that requires each firefighter is assigned an electronic personal alert safety system device. That device is independent from the integrated pass device in the SCBA that they wear. So that at the time of the incident, each electronic pass device has an assigned identifier. Example, engine 50A, that identifies the captain from engine 50. However, the pass device does not identify the individual by name, so whoever picks up the pack or the piece of the electronic pass. Utilizing identification emblems on helmets or turnout gear in conjunction with electronic accountability system would aid in the identification of the individual members at the fire scene. And I used to do that in Clearwater. I implemented that actually, and in Fort Saskatchewan, where we did the identifiers on the SCBA.
Yeah,
I did it more to try to keep unity amongst the agents. So we didn't get that intermingling of the crews, right? To keep that cohesion. So I could see if engine 1 guy was hanging out with the engine 3 guys instead of with their engine. That's really why I did it from a command perspective. And
we've just done that a couple of years ago, and so we have our packs assigned to each truck, and so we have the flashes on the shoulder and on the pack, just so we can keep, once again, the integrity of that company coming in, right, and doing the work is like, okay, engine 3 is going to be with engine 3, and ladder 1 is going to be with ladder 1, and so on and so forth, right? So we can just make sure we're keeping units to their assigned.
I think I bought those for Lacombe.
Oh yeah,
2013. I'm pretty sure I did.
So? Yeah.
The first ones you would have changed them now because you've got some new apparatus.
Absolutely,
They probably got worn down. They came from some guy in Florida makes them.
Oh yeah,
nice. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Cool.
Okay, well, that was it for that one. This is the Blue Card podcast.
Yeah, no kidding.
Look at what
we got some nozzle forward. We're gonna have some nozzle forward and some other stuff sprinkled in there.
ULFSRI.
Yeah,
that's another thing that I forgot to mention that came out this week. Was very interesting. Maui. So Maui, two reports came out on the Maui fire at Lanahai, Hawaii. The internal report that was done by the Southwest Fire Chiefs Association, that was commissioned by the fire chief. So that report is out, and it's definitely worth the read. And then
no spoilers yet. I haven't read it yet. So no spoilers.
No spoilers.
Yeah, let me get to it. It's on my list.
Read it, and then pile. Subsequent to that. The first phase, the governor of Hawaii has commissioned FSRI, Fire Research Safety Institute, they've commissioned them to do the after action report on the fires. And phase 1, which is really just a timeline of all the events and the units and what everybody was doing and stuff, that report came out. It's quite extensive. It's a couple hundred pages long, but it is an interesting read. I didn't read every page, but I did kind of skim through it. And then phase 2 is going to be fire department actions, I think. And then phase 3 is going to be recommendations for a wildfire in an urban area. Because really it ended up being a conflagration. I mean, we had house to house to house. And so stay tuned for that. But phase 1 report is out. It's a good read. And of course the Maui report from the Southwest Fire Chiefs. You got to read it because it's worthwhile.
It's on my list.
On your list. It's all the stuff that needs to be addressed in your community for wildland fire preparedness.
Exactly right. It's never a worry until it's your community, right? So, and then you
Yeah.
always get bit in the butt with it. So,
Then it's too late. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, I won't tell you the stuff that it says.
No.
I'm biting my tongue here.
I
Um,
appreciate it.
yeah, because the chief actually restated here yesterday or
Mhm.
something on some social feeds, 3 or 4 of the high points, and said these are
Yep.
the things that we didn't have that
Mhm.
you need to work on. So
Absolutely.
that's good. Okay, well, that's the end of this
Yeah.
episode, I guess.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
Just once again, this fire is one of the. I listen to a lot of these podcasts you guys are doing, and a lot of it's just like it's back. It's back before all these studies are coming out. We talk about the UL and FSRI, and you sit here nowadays, having all this information is like if only these guys had this information, access to them. We do now. It's important that we get out there and utilize this information, and it could save lives, right? And
How?
use the
But
resources.
we did one a little while ago. I'm not
Mhm.
looking at the list here.
Yeah,
That wasn't that old.
yeah,
And the problem was, how do we get our seasoned, long term firefighters to pay attention and read and learn
exactly.
about this new stuff? You get the old
Yeah,
guys like me,
yeah,
and now you're going to tell me how to do it, Sonny. I've been doing this for
exactly.
20 years and, we're not going to change. How do we do that? I don't know. Podcasts, I guess. That's why we're
Yeah,
doing the
it's the
podcast.
tailboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Podcasts are one way to do it, right? Having
Yeah.
conversations around the coffee table,
Yep.
right? That's all it comes down to is just have a conversation. So, yeah,
Perfect. Okay. Well,
right on.
thanks everybody for listening to another emergency traffic podcast. We appreciate your interest and hope you find these interesting and informative. Give us a star, a like, or a thumbs up on the app you use to listen to the podcast. These mean a lot to us and they help the algorithms for other people to find out about our podcast, which is growing. We're up to like 5,600 listens now and 120 followers on Spotify. So it is growing, which is great. You can follow us, of course, at Twitter, Podcast Traffic, or our Facebook page, the Emergency Traffic Podcast, or you can email us at the Emergency Traffic Podcast at gmail.com. And as Sergeant Phil Esterhaus used to say on Hill Street Blues, let's be safe out there.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.